Hey gang, it's Rob from ITMasterKey.com, and in this training, I'm going to help you pass the AWS Solutions Architect exam. So if it's your first time doing any training with me, what I do is pretty much break down who is the exam for, what the requirements are to pass, and then we go through some practice questions together. So I'll read the question, give you some time to figure out what you think the answer is, then I'll give you the answer and explain why that is the answer. So if you've never seen me before, I'm Rob. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. And for a long time, I'm helping people just like you pass exams like this AWS certification and help people get into rewarding tech careers. So I've been in tech for almost 20 years. My tech career really started when I was in the U.S. Army. I climbed the ranks, went to Afghanistan, taught a bunch of troops. Then when I got out, I started teaching civilians the same stuff. So I have over 12 industry certifications. I have a MBA and this stuff, and I'm all around good guy. So the AWS is an awesome certification. But before we get into that, I just want to say huge shout out and a huge thank you to all of our students and all of the channel members here on the channel. If you're interested in getting some of the most popular certifications in the industry in as little as 90 days, you can hit the link in the description or head over to itmasterkey.com. There's actually some free training on itmasterkey.com that you can go through. It'll kind of tell you exactly what we do for students, how we get them into tech. And if it aligns with your goals, you go ahead and enroll. If not, you still have that free training, right? Also, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you have to be a channel member. If you become a channel member, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Now, the AWS or Certified Solutions Architect. My damn power supply just dropped. Anyway, so the AWS Certified Solutions Architect is designed for individuals who have proven experience designing distributed systems and applications on the Amazon Web Services platform. It validates the ability to effectively demonstrate knowledge of how to architect, deploy, secure, and how to scale any AWS services. So if you're interested in anything in cloud, this would be an awesome certification for you. So on the actual certification, there's a couple things that Amazon thinks that are prerequisites and are suggestions, but you don't have to have any of these things. Now, they believe that professionals with at least 1 year of hands-on experience design available, cost-effective, fault-tolerant, and scalable distributed systems on AWS, individuals who design cloud stuff, and those looking to advance their career. Now, to take this, you don't have to have any experience. Will experience help you on the exam? Yes. But if I had students that passed this with zero experience, yes. So you don't have to have any experience. And if you're looking to get a cloud specific certification, this is a cool one to look into. Now for the actual requirements, the duration is a little bit over 2 hours. You will get a maximum of 65 questions, and you need to get a 72% or 720 out of 1,000. And you can take this exam in person or online. Now, like I said at the top of the video, we're going to go through some questions. I'm going to break down the questions, kind of give you some skills and a proven framework that worked for my students on how to go ahead and be able to effectively pass this exam. If you're looking for more practice questions, if you're looking for things just like this, you can hit the link in the description and get access to our practice test vault. Now, when we go through the exam, this practice exam, I'm going to give you some time to think about it. So when I'm just standing here being quiet, I'm not being weird. I'm just giving you time to kind of process the information. Now, before we get started, I'm going to give you guys some time to like this video since I'm taking time out of my day to provide you all of this awesome value. So I'll give you some time to like this video while I get some energy. I've been doing so many of these. kind of ignore what says PMP exam format. I drop so many of these, sometimes I forget to update the slides. All right, so you ready? Let's go into it. You are designing a high throughput application that receives millions of records per hour from IoT devices and stores them in a centralized data lake for batch processing and machine learning workflows. The application must ensure that no data is lost and it scales automatically, and that ingestion costs remain minimal. Which solution best meets these requirements? Three, two, one. Now, one of the biggest things I want you to make sure that you pay attention to in this practice test, as well as the real thing, is what's the best, what's the fastest, what's the cheapest, so on and so forth. Make sure that you're paying attention to those keywords. So if you use Firehouse to deliver data directly to S3, Firehouse is optimized for massive scale data ingestion with automatic scaling, retry logic, and minimal operational overhead. Minimal operational overhead is a big one, because as much as you can automate, as much things you can make happen on their own, the better, without any type of intervention from you or your team. Data streams could potentially work with this, but it requires managing consumers and checkpointing, adding operational complexity. So, like I said, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, especially stuff that needs to be available pretty much all the time, you want to make sure that operational overhead or just minimal intrusion from people, right? So they can actually be doing their job, as opposed to making sure that the machine keeps running. You want to make sure that the machine runs almost on its own. You set it up, you have systems in place, and everything's good. Your organization has a compliance requirement that all data stored in S3 must be encrypted using customer managed CMKs. Additionally, the key rotation should be automatic, and access to the keys must be auditable. You are tasked with enforcing this policy across hundreds of S3 buckets. What is the best way to meet this requirement at scale? Three, two, one. Okay, so the best way would be to create a service control policy that denies all S3 uploads, not using a specific CMK. So, uh, SCPs allow organizations using AWS organizations to apply account level restrictions, making them ideal for enforcing company wide encryption standards. So everybody that's at the same level on that same account have the same permissions and would have the same restrictions. So you don't have to go through each person, you don't have to go through each department. Everybody that is in that organization, or everybody that is on that same account, are going to have the same permissions, same restrictions, so on and so forth. You can write conditions to allow put operations when a specific KMS key is used. Bucket policies work per bucket and don't scale easily. AWS config is reactive, not preventative, right? So just in general, whether you're in the exam, in real life, you want to make sure that preventative is always better than reactive. You would much rather prevent something than reacting to something after it's happened, right? All right, so let's go to the next one. A SaaS provider is hosting a multi-tenant application on AWS and needs to ensure strict data isolation between tenants. The app uses Amazon RDS for pre-SQL and Amazon S3 for object storage. What architecture ensures tenant isolation while optimizing for cost and management overhead? Now, when you're trying to figure this out, you're probably figuring or thinking about where the hell did he get these questions from? So I got these questions from right here in my noggin. So I created all these questions literally just for you guys. And like I said at the top of the video, if you want questions just like this, we have an entire practice test vault, and the link to get access to that practice test vault is in the description. Three, two, one. So you use shared RDS with row level security and shared S3 with tenant specific prefixes and IAM policies. The best approach, right? Because we always want to make sure the best, the fastest, most effective for scalability and cost is to use shared RDS instance with the built-in row level security to isolate data by tenant. So we isolate tenant by our data by each user, each tenant, just to make sure that it's easier to troubleshoot and figure out who actually messed up, who actually did something, right? So if we isolate each one of those people, it makes stuff a lot easier. So once you get to the next part, it's pretty easy, right, to implement this. It's pretty easy to make sure that this works correctly. Because like I said, if you try to do it any other way, it's going to be hard to kind of pinpoint and figure out where things happen. All right, so let's get to the next one. You're designing a global content delivery platform for a video streaming service. You want to minimize latency for users worldwide, handle spikes in traffic, and reduce costs. Which architecture is best aligned with these goals? Three, two, one. Okay, so for this, you want to store video in S3 and serve it using CloudFront with regional edge caches. CloudFront is designed to cache and distribute content globally with minimal latency, especially effective for large video files. So latency is just pretty much lag and how long it takes for something to be downloaded, uploaded, or move across the network, which is going to be super important if you're in Chicago, you got people in Germany. You're in Alaska, and you got people in Russia. I don't know. Right? You got people globally, and they're moving large files, so to make things super easy and a lot quicker. You won't have to worry about the lag and that latency. A financial services company is migrating sensitive workloads to AWS and must ensure that all EC2 instances launched across accounts have encrypted root volumes using a customer managed key. They also need to restrict the ability to disable this encryption. How can they best enforce this? Three, two, one. So for this, you got to apply SCP that denies instant launches without encrypted volumes using CMK. SCPs enforce restrictions at the account level, preventing resource creation unless encryption requirements are met. You can conditionally deny EC2 launches unless the root volume is encrypted using a specific CMK. Launch templates alone don't prevent manual overrides. CloudTrail plus Lambda is reactive, not proactive. And like we always said, it's always better to be proactive as opposed to reactionary. AWS config alerts, but does not prevent violations, right? So it'll tell you, hey man, something happened, but it won't do anything about it. So we're 5 questions in the comments, let me know. How are you doing? Are you doing good? Are you doing bad? If this was the real thing, would you be passing? Would you be failing? Or kind of how do you feel about the entire thing, right? Is it easier than you thought it was going to be? Is it harder than you thought it was going to be? Or how do you feel? One thing I will say is this. These questions are a lot harder than the questions that's going to be on the exam. So if you're doing pretty good on these questions, it may be an indication that you may be ready to take the exam. But please understand, if you got all these questions right, it does not mean that you're going to pass the exam. It just means that you're going in the right direction. At the top of the video, if you want to go through our free training that shows you exactly how we help our students get the most in-demand and most popular certificates in the industry, you can hit the first link in the description. Also, all the other ways that we can help you are in the description as well. Other than that, I'll see you in class.